A very good evening to everyone. This is Vance from Kopi with Vance. As usual, before we start, there you go. But nowadays it's not coffee, it's water. I don't know why. I think you should be drinking lots of water instead of coffee, right? But once in a while, we have to drink coffee. So it's fine for those who are coffee lovers. Cheers. All right. So thank you for joining in again. And I got to thank my speakers as well, which I'm going to introduce to every one of you all. What is the topic today? Today's topic is surviving or thriving with our guest speakers, Devan and Nisha. Both of them are wonderful souls who are doing a fantastic, it's not even a job. I think they are pretty much doing it out of their passion. I think they want to make a difference. So they actually caught my attention, and we also sync very well in terms of the kind of work that we do. So I thought, why not bring them up to Kopi with Vance to share their expertise and experiences of what they are actually doing, right? I mean, that's very important. But as we know that this topic can be sensitive, but it's something like a taboo, which is not talked about most of the time, but we try not to touch that area, which is because it can lead to extreme cases, especially during this pandemic or even not pandemic also. It can be a huge topic, which is of course suicidal, what actually causes it and how we can prevent it. And my two speakers will come up and actually tell more about the content. But I'm going to touch a little bit on the stress before I bring them up. I think stress sometimes can be a growth, but stress can also be very dangerous because stress is a feeling, emotional or physical tension. It can come from any event or thought that makes you feel frustrated, anger, or nervous. Actually, when you have stress, your bodies react to a change or demand in short bursts. And stress can be positive sometimes, but sometimes it can be the otherwise. If too much of that, and if you don't have a loved one, or if you're not sharing it, it can lead to depression, it can lead to anxiety, anger, restlessness, you got not enough sleep, feeling overwhelmed, all right? And most importantly, I think it's very unmotivated. Because of that, you can be unfocused. Most of the time, you don't get a lot of appreciation or valuation from people, right? Something like social media, you're constantly pressured. Racing through or constant worry, problems with your memory or concentration, making bad decisions. I can keep on going on and on, but I think let's not focus so much on the negative part, which I'm going to talk a lot of on the positive part, how we are looking at solutions of this particular topic that we are talking about. So let's bring up my first speaker up, who is Devan. So Devan, where are you? Jump in, buddy. Come on, jump in. There you go, Devan.
Hi guys. Hi Vince. How are you, bro?
I'm good. And how are you, Devan?
I'm good. It's been a very cold weather, so it's been a very. I feel like even though we never travel, it feels like I'm at Cameron Highlands, so
Okay,
the feel
yeah.
is good, lah. The feel is good.
So
Yeah.
it's a good effect, right? I mean, you don't need to travel, and
Yes.
you have the atmosphere of the environment.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Devan,
Yeah.
first of all, I got to thank you so much for joining in Kopi with Vance. I know Nisha will be joining us shortly after your introduction because she's going to jump like a hurdle to come into our onboard Kopi with Vance. But before that, let's do a quick introduction and then we can dive into the topic after Nisha. So please go ahead, Devan.
All right.
Introduction.
Okay. So I think first of all, my name is Devan. All right. I'm actually a youth worker who specializes doing community work with regards to mental health. Where did this journey started? Long before I started Mental Act, right? When I was in secondary school, going through relationships, going through bullying and stuff, and that kind of affected my mental health. And then when I was in the army, a close friend of mine actually passed on. He died by suicide, and that kind of affected me because at that point of time, I was going through a tough breakup and I was going through depression in midst of my family members, but nobody knew, or people failed to realize that, hey, David was going through something. So over time, I went to go and seek help. I went to go for counseling, went to go, do mindfulness training and all of the stuff. And I benefited from it, and I realized that, hey, in the Indian community, right, how many of us actually know what are the mental health resources? So I started a few projects under Cinda as well. And after that, I decided to move on. And eventually I met Nisha, my fiance, who will also share more about herself. And apart from the love that, bloomed, initiative also bloomed out of it. And that was Mental Act. Yeah. So then we started Mental Act, and here we are, 3 years after starting it.
Thank you for the introduction, Devan. So now we're going to call Nisha. Come on, Nisha, jump in over. Jump. There you go.
Hi.
Uh,
Hi, Vance. Hi, Devon.
okay,
Hello.
it's good to see you at Kopi with Vance. Devan has already done his introduction to our
Yes, you have.
viewers. So probably you'll do a quick introduction before we can set up the gear and start moving ahead. So your introduction, please.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Nisha. I am a professional counselor. I have been doing counseling for the past 5 years now. The alongside Devon, I'm also the other founder of Mental Act. My mental health journey started very much earlier when I was much younger. Over the years, I know I've been a caregiver, I've been a supporter, and in my adolescent years, I also was diagnosed with mental health conditions, right? I was clinically diagnosed with bipolar disorder as well as depression and anxiety disorder. So that kind of increased my awareness and support for people with lived experience with mental illness. So as I started my journey, I started an initiative called Reset Right. When I was in uni doing my degree in psychology, I started making YouTube videos, and then I started working with volunteering with IMH. Started learning more about psychology, and then I got my full-time job. I started working with more clients with different mental health issues, and like David said, that's when I met him, and we realized that we both had a passion for mental health, and we both wanted to support individuals with lived experience as well as caregivers, who go the extra mile to support their family members and their friends. And that's when our initiative was born, Mental Act.
Thank you so much, Nisha, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to have the both of you are here to have a great discussion on the
Thank you.
topic.
So
But
happy.
before we go on to this topic, of course, during this pandemic, it's over 1 year. There has been a lot of cases. I mean, we are hearing there, yeah, but of course, as sensitive it can be, we also try not to mention names, or we try not to relate to person. Maybe we can put a dummy name or dummy person. The age can be different, but there have been a lot of cases, not only because of this pandemic, and also it can involve in any kind of a depression, financial issue, marriage problems, anything that we are talking about. But during this pandemic, there has been some cases on suicidal, which is very sensitive. But that also is a bit of a concern, right? Maybe that particular person might be feeling tremendous stress, and it can be a very horrible thing that they might be going through, might not be sharing with someone, and we can't even imagine how the particular person might be went through in that point of time. But of course, these are the topics that we're going to talk on, and few other things that leading to the youth, right? The stress with social media, with education, parent. Nowadays, if you look at it, I don't know, sure if you agree with me. Parents are more stressed than the kids in terms of examination, in terms of progress, in terms of development, because they want their kids to be the best of the best. Nothing wrong with that. But as a youth, how the youth is actually handling this kind of environment or the situation, they might be going through a tremendous stress. But sometimes parents, because of the N2, they might not understand them, but that can lead them to do different things, which we don't want to talk about, which can be very horrible. But what we're trying to do here is to highlight and to understand how they can go through, because you guys have been handling these kind of issues and situation. So before we start on, Devan and maybe Nisha, maybe either one of you can take this thing. We're going to go into step by step. So let's look at the statistics. I know you all having the foundation. Maybe you want to talk a little bit on the foundation and then the outline, which we'll talk about later, and the stats. How the stats been, and what are the challenges that you guys face, and what are the issues?
All right. Okay. So let's look at before COVID period. All right. Because even though COVID period was something that just started, back last year, right? Mental health has been in existence within the Singapore community for quite some time. Having our own, Institute of Mental Health, and also, a research department that solely focuses on, Singapore's mental health scene, how the landscape has been, and they have actually come up with different kinds of stats. So just to be a bit brief, IMH department and the research department at IMH, right, usually conducts a periodic survey across the Singapore landscape to look at how mental health has actually improved, or is there any concerns that are raising up. And there are something that they have actually figured out. So one of the things that they actually found out, let me just bring out the stats, right? Okay, is that compared to the one that they did in 2010, all right, versus 2016, all right, the latest one they have done, right? On a large spectrum, most of the mental health issues, be it bipolar disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, alcohol abuse, or MDD, major depressive disorder, all of it has seen a rise. Amongst them, right, the topmost issues that are pertaining to the Singaporean community, right, are the following: the major depressive disorder. All right. Guess what? Maybe I can throw this question back to you, Vance. Which one do you think is the first one? First one is MDD, right? What do you think is the second one? Is it option A, OCD? Option B, alcohol abuse?
OCD.
Alcohol abuse is higher. 1 in
Serious?
16 of
Oh,
yes.
okay.
1 in 24 are affected by alcohol abuse, whereas only 1 in 28 are affected by OCD. So the stats are showing that, hey, we do have issues that are happening within the Singaporean community. Now let's look at the COVID situation. Why are we talking about mental health, and why is it being affected within, during the COVID period especially? One thing, first of all, being in a pandemic, right? The two things that always come out is fear and a lack of security. All right, these two always come hand in hand, and people do get anxious, especially there's this thing called health anxiety. All right, the moment when I step out of my house, if I touch the lift button, will I get COVID? If the person beside me accidentally just coughs, the person might have been coughing for the past few months, but today when he coughs beside you in the lift, right, you'll be like, oh no, he has COVID. So that unnecessary stress, the overthinking there, because of the fear that, hey, if I get it, my family members will get it, or loved ones might be affected, and all that kind of stuff, right? Actually, made things a bit worse for one's mental health, in the sense that people started becoming anxious. There are more people started to get overly compulsive disorder. In the aspect of wanting to make sure that cleanliness is always maintained, because they're always thinking, hey, if I don't keep up the cleanliness routine, my family will be affected, especially for those people who have elderly parents at home. All right, then you look at depression. We are social creatures. All right, we love to go abroad and everything, right? But when we are locked down, okay, in our own household against our will, even though we know, okay, this is for the greater good, it's also helping us and everything, but the fact that we are forced to stay at home, and everything comes together, your work comes together with your family comes together with the relationship dynamics, everything is all under one roof, affecting not just one person but every single family member at home. What then happens is things like depression happens. All right, why? Because you do not have an outlet, work-life balance goes haywire and everything, and because of that, depression comes in, and there are a lot of things that happen along the way as well. So depression, all right, at the same time you have OCD also going on the rise, and just now I was sharing, right, alcohol abuse, that's also going in the rise. Why alcohol abuse? And you'll be surprised, how come mental health issues, when we talk about mental health issues, why do we talk about alcohol abuse? Because alcohol is usually seen as a way to cope with your stress. So if you're not able to cope with all the stresses at home, what do you do then? You turn to something that you can do at home, which is drinking alcohol. And for some people, right, the alcohol dependence becomes much more hectic, or they are unable to actually cope with the dependence, and they fall prey to it. And when that happens, their entire life is affected by it. Even though during the first time when they actually started to take up drinking, it was more of coping with their existing issues at home or their mental health issues. So all of this has been on the rise, and especially during the COVID period, right? Other things that actually affect the mental health also comes into play. Nisha maybe can share a bit more, in terms of things like, family violence and that kind of stuff. How did it then further affected one's mental health? Nisha?
So we realized, right, from the people we engaged with during the circuit breaker and throughout most of last year, a lot of times the pressure, the family pressure of being at home for prolonged periods of time caused people a lot of stress and, tension and overwhelming feelings, right? This is something that many people may not have realized. But before circuit breaker, a lot of us cope in ways like going out with friends, going for dinner, going bowling, exercising, going to the gym, going to work even is a way of like a stress buster for many people. But what happened when circuit breaker came is that we were all contained at home. We could not even go to the void deck to sit down because everything is cordoned off, you can't sit there and things like that. So what happens is you are kept contained in a physical space. For people who, a lot of people who don't talk to their family members, don't talk to their siblings, their husband, their parents, for usually not, they're not used to being in so close proximity or talking to them all the time, are forced to see everybody's face almost 24/7 in a day. And it gets very overwhelming, and that's when you realize that you actually have a lot of problems that you have not come into terms with. In other words, we have not faced our own demons. A lot of times we deal with our problems by going out, going partying, to the theater, to, exercise, sports, hobbies. All these kind of things have always been distractions. But when all of that taken away, that's when we realize that we actually do have a lot of challenges, stress, and struggles. Sometimes this stress becomes so overwhelming, people don't know how to cope because it's very new. And that's when tension rises in like a family setting. And these are some things that became more obvious, especially during the circuit breaker last year.
Nisha and David, I think it's very interesting here because we do know that people are quite talented of having different masks. So they wear different masks because often in the society, weakness is shown as a privilege, or rather they take it as an advantage. If I show that I'm weak, people might take advantage. So they tend to have this alpha, or that I'm strong, they are easily to become. But unfortunately, at the back of the screen, they are actually very fragile. And this can be actually go on, and it's pretty difficult to understand or people to talk about, say, hey, look, I got a situation, I need help. That's as an Asian culture, I think we are getting there, but we are still haven't reached yet. The destination is still far. But do you think in this mental health that we are talking about, that getting help, right? Will there be any chances their identifications can be known to others? Is that one of the reasons why people don't want to approach, even though there's so much of help in Singapore? Like, even if you think about your organization is a non-profit, and you guys started it about 3 years ago in just in the mankind to help people, right? So anybody can just call you at any time. So I can imagine if somebody call you at 3 a.m., probably there might be someone answering it, and maybe if it's a life and death, probably you'll be getting the authorities and getting help, the data, even more deeper help to to reach them. So I think it's a very wonderful kind of thing that you guys are doing. I don't even say it's a work, it's a fantastic kind of passion that you're giving to the mankind. But is there a mask that people often wear, Nisha, in your scope of job that you do as a counselor? So why people don't want to share their issues?
And there's a few reasons. First of all is consequences, right? There's always consequences to all of our actions, right? And the one thing is, when we start to be vulnerable in front of other people, just like you say, Vance, they take advantage, right? It's very privileged information. It's very sensitive information, very personal information to know about one's mental health struggles. In fact, we are more open to talk about, say, diabetes, cancer, even heart problems, cardiac problems, as compared to talking about depression or anxiety or having suicidal thoughts. We try to cover this and conceal this, right? That is because the consequences. A lot of times people look down on us. That's one consequence, right? Like you said, weak, vulnerable, not really, they're not resilient. Another consequence is, a lot of times this has an impact on their future, career wise, education wise, right? For many years, you are asked to declare your mental health state in job interviews. right? Sometimes, and I mean, now government says that it's not compulsory for you to declare, but there are still organizations, corporate organizations, who ask you to declare. If you say no, I don't want to, they are questioning, they're a bit confused, or they're hesitant as to why you don't want to declare. What does that mean? So my mental health state equates to how my functioning and performance is. Somebody could be very high functioning, can be performing very well at their job, but because they are clinically diagnosed with some kind of illness, they are stereotyped to be not functioning. You don't want to hire them. You don't want to deal with the repercussions of it. And so, what happens as an individual, I rather not say, because my rice bowl is important.
Yeah.
My job, my future is important. I don't want to put that at stake, right? So that is one of the reasons. The other reason is basically culture and tradition, right? In our culture, we are very confined. We are very private people, right? Whether you look at it as the Indian community or you look at it as the Asian community, we are very private people. We don't like to, dry our dirty linen in public. And talking about mental health, talking about our private problems, our personal problems, we see it as shameful. So when we see that from our grandparents' generations, our parents' generations, to our current generation, when we see that is how, our forefathers and everyone is behaving, we also fear that, okay, no one has ever shared their past. No one has ever shared their personal problems. Why should I do it? Maybe it's wrong. Even if someone comes forth and want to share, most of their time, I can guarantee 90% of the time, their families would not always be in support of it. They'll be like, no, why do you want to talk about this in public? What is it going to do? People are going to look down on you. My brother's going to come and ask me what is wrong with you. My friends are going to come and ask me what is wrong with you. So a lot of pride we hold to our face value, right? Again, because of the stigma.
Very, very interesting. Before we jump into Devan for his input, I think it's because of the social media, or rather the people that are giving judgment. I mean, we are always concerned about who is talking about us, what they
Yes.
are saying about us, and that is always having a constant fear. It's like, oh, am I looking down? Am I not being appreciated? So this thing is going through not a day, but constantly you're worrying about it.
And it's
But
very funny. It is very funny because, like just now when I said, when we have diabetes or when we have a heart condition or a skin condition, we don't think, what are people going to say about us, so I'm not going to seek help. People will say a lot of things about, so I'm not going to seek help for my diabetes. But we will do the same thing when we are feeling anxious or when we're having depression. No, people will say something, so I'm not going to seek help. We prioritize our physical health more than our mental health. We have been forced, we have been taught to do so, that although physical health and mental health is equally important for any human being, because of the stigma attached to it, we prioritize one over the other. If we are ashamed of our mental health, by right, we should be ashamed of our physical health also. But no, we are the first to go and take an MC, the first to go and see a doctor when you have, flu or cough or even a huge chronic illness. But we will not do the same thing if your chronic illness is mental health related. And that is
Actually,
why that stigma is there.
So we're
on
coming
that
back
note,
to
right?
Devan now. So Devan, sorry, I got to hold you for a while.
No
What
problem.
Nisha said, we have to agree with it, because I think constantly people in the society is always giving. You do something, they will say something. You never do, also they will say something. So
Yeah.
rather you do your best and not to worry about these noises. I mean, that's have to be trained. I'm coming back to Devan right now. Devan, social media, right? Now we are going into social media, and later we will come back to Nisha's way, the thoughts that she felt, right? The social media is such a, I'm not sure I should say that, but I think we should say it's some kind of uncertainty, some kind of mess. If he has 10 likes, I must have 100 likes. If he has 100 likes, I must have 1,000. So this is some kind of competition and constant pressure. So people are always trying to impress themselves. But what is your take in this, David? Social media.
I think it's a very important thing to talk about, because you know why, especially within the youngsters. All right, social media is so prevalent. Take for example, TikTok, and you have Instagram as well. All right, and a lot of people, especially on Instagram, right, they tend to share the best part of their life. They might be going through something at home, but then but what they post is what you see, right? And for example, you'll see, insta-worthy pictures, like hi guys, I'm doing this, I'm so good at this, wow, masterpiece and stuff. And it becomes a competition. Why? Because as a youth, right, especially as a youth, you tend to actually want to carve out your identity, so last time, our identity is created by what we think that people think of us. All right, I repeat that part. Okay, our identity is pretty much determined by what we think that people think of us. All right, so a lot of people will always think, hey, if that person is posting this, right, I must post something else. If not, then that person might think, or that friend of mine might think that, hey, I'm a useless person. I'm not doing well. In fact, during the COVID period, there was one thing that kind of like irked everyone, which was the whole thing about hashtag COVID-19 a period of transformation. So everybody was like, oh, now that I have all the time in the world, lockdown and stuff, I'm going to start exercising, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to start doing that. And then they were like, there were people putting up on posts and on our stories saying you should also do it. If you don't do it, it means you're a failure. Look at how social media can actually affect your mental health. Because by doing that and also cultivating such a culture, right, you are literally creating a rat race that you are involved in and you are pressured to continue on. And when that happens, right, that's when the whole idea of inferiority complex also comes in. I must always one up. If that, like what you were sharing just now, if that person gets this amount of likes, I must get more likes than that person. But the thing is, the pressure is created because we hope to create an identity, all right, that stands out. All right, and you'll be surprised. Not just youth, even adults are jumping onto the bandwagon. I must post this today. I did this recipe today. Yesterday, my friend posted this recipe. Today, I'm going to post a different version of the recipe, and I must get better likes. The competitiveness. But at the end of the day, right, do they actually feel good about the competitiveness? It's a question mark. Most of the time, in fact, most of the youth that we actually speak to, they usually come and share with us that they are unable to cope with having to continuously put up a fake image or a false identity of themselves on social media. And it kind of affects them in many aspects. For example, youth, female youth that we counsel, they share about the eating disorders. Having to perform to make sure they look thin, they look beautiful on social media because their friends all look beautiful. They then develop disorders such as, eating disorders or, fitness related disorders where they excessively exercise just to lose weight. So these are some examples that happen just because social media, when it's not regulated, okay, and when a culture, this kind of a toxic culture, all right, is continuously perpetuated, you get this kind of mental health conditions coming out as well. Yeah.
Devan, I think it's also another interesting point that you and Nisha brought up. But also I got to bring someone up because there is Dr. Arvinder Singh who wants to talk a little bit on mental health. So I'm going to pull Dr. Arvinder Singh in another couple of minutes. Just hang on there, doctor. But coming back to what you mentioned, Devan, and social media can be very stressful because if you are going to share something about yourself that you have and what others might not have, that might give constant pressure to the particular person. But if it's done in to share within your family and loved one, but nowadays social media, like what you said, there's no one to regulate about it, so everybody just posts whatever they want to because it's their wall, their page. They have all the rights. But let's take Dr. Arvinder's advice, all right? Because Dr. Arvinder is a mental and youth worker expert, which we have done many cases with them during this pandemic. So let me see if I can pull Dr. Arvinder. Dr. Arvinder, are you there?
Yeah.
Dr. Arvinder.
Hi.
There you go, Dr. Arvinder.
Hi guys. How are you doing?
A very quick introduction about yourself before we go into the topic, which we are in the midst of burning more charcoal into it because we can see the steam coming up already. So, Dr. Arvinder.
Hi, my name is Dr. Arvinder. You can call me Arvinder. Basically, I'm a medical officer. I have done my master's in clinical research and I'm doing my PhD in community health, epidemiology and statistics. focusing on teenage mental health and athletes' health as well. Um, I have shifted a bit to COVID 19 during this pandemic, but nevertheless, mental health still remains very close to my heart, which I do quite a number of things. And I was actually backstage listening to you guys, hearing a lot about issues online, and some of my main research work prior in the past, not main, some of the work I've done is basically on cyberbullying and also mental health and how it's affect youth. So it's quite interesting, I think, this particular topic, and a timely one. And thank you, Vance, for calling me, getting me to speak about this.
So, Doctor, so as we are diving into the topic, because Devan is a youth worker and
Right.
Nisha is actually a counselor, and we have a doctor on board. So I think we can actually relate back to the question and push it back to you and see what our counselor and the youth worker is saying. There has been cases where parents are very concerned about their kids, right? They're always constantly, study hard, do this, do that. We can never say it's a parent's fault. We cannot say that, because as a parent, they want everything for their child, best of everything in their life. But sometimes they become too into, they forget about what is a child meant to be. The child meant to be playful, the child meant to make mistakes, the child meant to fall down, the child meant to do everything. But of course, education is important as well. That is not happening because of this competition world that we are living in. Do you think what is going on in the child's mind, which comes back from school, tuition, sport, sleep, come back? So it's a repeated thing that's going on. Does the child loses the youth, which obviously does as time goes by? But what is happening inside the whole mind, Doctor? Maybe can you talk about that?
I would say mental fatigue actually takes place. We think that the child does not get fatigued. If you look at a child every day, if you ask the child, the child is very active. The child keeps doing, and then you find, hey, how is this guy get all this energy in this world? But then when you ask the child to go and go for a jog with you and come back, the next thing the floor is flat out because they got so much energy to burn and they've burnt it out. But at the end of the day, there's also a mental burnout for kids. When you keep indulging in something and asking the child to do, especially I remember as a child, I really hated arts. But I was
High
still asked to
five.
go for art class. Sorry?
High five.
So, but at the end of the day, when I was made to go for art class, I think one day I remember telling my mom, I said, no, I really can't do this. And it is good when a parent actually listen. I think it is not the fault of us because we don't know what is the niche of a child at all. But I think if the child is trying to tell you that they don't enjoy something, I think it is the duty of the parents to listen. We have to expose the child to as many good things as possible, but we also have to give that room for the child to probably pick what's right or what they like doing. And children will drop something immediately. You can buy a nice educational toy for the kid. The fella will use it for about 10 minutes. Next 5 minutes you can show him a whistle and the fella is all out for the whistle. He has forgotten about that toy which you just got him or her. But at the end of the day, I think we have to look at the child's mental well-being. I think most of us are within this particular age group. When you remember when we were a kid, we were actually born with a TV at home. So nowadays, if you don't have a TV at home, you'll be, oh my God, what do I do? But our parents, when they were born, they were never had a TV at home, so they know what to do without it. Now, the same thing I have to say is when a child is born these days, they're born with a computer and a mobile phone at home, and they are the TV to us is going to become the handphone, the mobile phone, their tablets, their devices to them. Without it, they don't know what to do. Like you and me, when we know that, hey, I don't have a phone or I don't have a laptop with internet connection. Hey, it's fine. Okay, I'll go out. I'll do something. But these kids have been taught that since young that this is where things happen and they get lost suddenly. I would say this is a modern age problem. I think our health DG once mentioned that we don't go online anymore, we live online. And one of the main reasons why we cannot switch off is because most of the time we actually end up living online. Even when you are not online, things are happening. And then when you go up, you play catch up. What do all of us do the first thing in the morning? We actually get up, we own our phone, check our WhatsApp messages, then go to our social media and say who has said what. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that. But at the end of the day, I think it was a point in our lives where we actually could shun this off. We don't need this. We know that we can live without it up to a certain extent. But the kids these days, when they're born, they see the parents doing it and they have indulged so much. You can see these days kids with every single social media account, stuff you don't know about, they are on it already, and they probably mastered it already, and they'll come and to teach you how to use it. It is going to come to a point in the day, and I think that mental health has come in such a position that we have to we have to go with time evolution. Those days we never used to deal much with cyber mental health. Now we are dealing a lot with it, and I think in the years to come it will be there much more often.
Mm.
And yeah, so I think the fault does not lie within the parents, but at the same time the decision making within the parent is actually very, very important.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to Nisha right now. Nisha, of course, we don't want to mention names and kind of stuff. We can say it happened in 1978, but it can be happen over the past couple of months. There's been cases where people go through tremendous stress, where they feel lonely, feel depression, the color of choices they wear, their dresses start to fade off, they lose everything in their life. There's some signs and indication that the particular person is going through a tremendous stress when they're going to make certain decisions, which is not uh, never advisable at all. But I think at that point of time, they're going through a tremendous stress and they just have to make the choice. What is these indications about? And maybe if you want to share so that our viewers might know that, hey, I have been talking to so and so, but he's been very quiet. Is avoiding. Is there some kind of signs and symptoms that the people is going through a tremendous, a severe depression and anxieties?
That itself is a symptom of its own, Vance, right? When you notice people that you meet with regularly every day or talk to all the time, and you realize they are not doing the things that they always do, right? It could be like people who send you good morning messages every day, and you realize for 1 week you haven't heard from them, or even from 3 days you haven't heard from them, right? Friends, for students, friends who come to school every day and suddenly, they're not coming to school, or they come to school but they come late, or they don't want to go out for lunch with you, they just stay in the class or whatsoever. Or at workplace, people who you realize staying back later than usual, or taking or seem to be getting very bad feedback from their supervisors, from their clients, things like that. Or people who in the past used to post a lot on their social media, taking photos and videos of everything that they do, but suddenly very quiet. Or suddenly you see them reposting or sharing things that's, very quite emotional or quite dark, quotes or pictures, or even putting up statuses that seem quite disturbing. These are all signs. Or people, who sometimes even say things like, I've had clients who have said things like, um, I want to give away some of my things. You ask them why. I said, no, I don't see the need of keeping them for so long. Or this is a prize collection of watches or something, and they're either giving it away to someone or selling it away. Or they say, hey, I want to meet you. It might be the last time. I don't know, stuff like that. So it's very, very it's a very simple skill. It's basically being observant, and it doesn't take a lot of effort because these are people that you talk to and connect with very regularly. So you would kind of see their personality, their mannerisms, and you would be able to observe and notice these small changes, no matter how subtle they are. you know Anything within like 3 days to you see over a week and you realize something is off, it's definitely a good time. Even if you're not sure, if you think, am I thinking too much, am I over thinking about this, maybe they're just busy or whatsoever, it's best to be safe than sorry. So always go in and check in and say, tell them what you observe. Hey, I've realized that recently I saw on your Instagram or Facebook that you have been posting some things that seem very morbid even for you, or I realized that you haven't been coming to work, taking a lot of MCs and things like that, always on urgent leave and stuff. What is I'm concerned. The most key important thing is sharing our concern. We don't want to seem like very busybody, very capo, we want them to know that we come from a place of concern and that somebody is noticing them. A lot of people tend to dwindle or kind of go down into their tunnel because they think that nobody knows. They think that nobody cares, right? So showing them that we care, showing them that they're being noticed is a huge first step to kind of get them on board and reconnecting with them.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Nisha. I'm going to put it to Devan right now.
Mm.
Before we go into Devan, Dr. Arvinda probably going to share his experience after Devan has got his part to say right now. That's going to be an interesting thing that Dr. Arvinda also going to share, if I'm sure. I think so, because Malaysia had just went through another unfortunate lockdown, or rather MCO, which Dr. Arvinda can talk about how the mental state of some people are over there. But right now, we're coming back to Devan. Devan, so let's talk about the social media again. Youth, right? Going through tremendous stress. Cyberbullying, I think, could be another topic that we can talk about, because everything is now just look icing of the cake. Everything looks nice, tasty. Everybody just smiling. But at the back of the screen, or the as we go deeper, there can be a tremendous amount of challenges and obstacles that people are going through. And
Yep.
we have to highlight, or somebody have to do. So that is why I think today we have gathered all our expertise today and see how we can lighten up and spread positive in Facebook. So Devan, your take on social media cyberbullying on youth.
All right. I think cyberbullying is very real. It's actually a much more morbid version of the usual bullying that we get in schools and stuff. Why? Because in school, right, when you see bullying or relational aggression, the new term for bullying, uh, you know who's the perpetuator. You can do something about the perpetuator. For example, if a friend of yours or a classmate of yours is bullying, the teacher can identify immediately, can see, or can hear the things that are happening. People can immediately jump in and address. But on social media, right, everyone's hiding behind a screen, right? And it's very easy to actually destroy a person's image via social media right now compared to destroying the image face to face. All right. And that itself makes it so much more painful to go through cyberbullying. All right. And within cyberbullying, the most common ones are, the thing that we see now, the cancel culture. So someone does something, everybody goes out to cancel that person, to destroy their identity. We also got, extortion online, people creating, and you'll be surprised, youth are also creating, they create fake profiles to actually go after the person that they want to bully. So let me share one particular case that we encountered as well, where the person actually had to go through non-stop harassment from their classmates back in school, because they were initially friends, all right, but then they had a fallout, and then they decided, okay, we need to make this person's life as miserable as it gets. So they actually created multiple fake profiles to go after the person and continuously harass the person, telling the person, you should not leave, go and die, kill yourself, and it didn't last 1 month or 2 months. No, it has been lasting over the past few years. And hearing this, because the person then became an advocate of mental health and joined us as well. And when she shared her story, and I was there, when she was sharing her story and stuff, and I asked her, by any chance, is this still continuing? She said, you'll be surprised, the case is still ongoing, because even a few months ago, a new profile come in, and they actually explicitly gave her an article. Okay, they sent the person an article stating exactly how to kill yourself, and then send pictures of people hanging themselves or cutting themselves and everything, all right, just to taunt the person and convince the person to kill themselves. And the most saddest thing is, this also happens to people with mental health conditions. So people post about their mental health hoping that someone sees it. But what happens when cyberbullying meets a person with mental health condition? Already the person has pre-existing notions about themselves, the thoughts that run through their minds, the feelings, the emotions, feeling very down and lonely. Imagine when that is hit by a wave of cyberbullying, telling the person, hey, you should not leave, you're worthless. Hey, why are you so ugly? People like you, right, should go and just jump down because you're too ugly to be in this world, and all that kind of stuff. It happens. In fact, it's actually increasing in Singapore. And during the COVID period, it became even more apparent because, face-to-face interaction is no longer there. So you cannot bully the person face-to-face. And then people realize being a keyboard warrior is much more better, because you can actually even hide your identity. The person themselves might actually have an inkling this person is the bully, but there's no way to actually pinpoint directly about a person. In fact, to even do that, you need to go through a police report. You need to give permission to the police to actually go and dig up, find the IP address, trace the person and stuff. But by that time, no, by that, that period of time that they take to do all the investigation, the damage is done. And when a person's identity is damaged online, all right, the damaged identity can last not just in Singapore, overseas. There will be histories, especially when they talk bad about a person. You'll be surprised, nowadays, doing job interviews, right? We had people who lost potential jobs because when the employee went to go and search online about that person, inappropriate things come out about a person, and even though they were not true, because it talked about their personality and about themselves, they didn't get the job. Then you see, just by that, cyberbullying alone, you destroy the person's life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Thank you, Devan. Thank you so much on the cyberbullying part. But again, we will come back to we talk about stats, we talk about we talk about all the issues. Now we are coming into the solution part, which is just nice. But before that, I'm going to get Dr. Arvinda, because our neighboring country, of course, is having some challenges at this point of time. I mean, COVID has taught everyone a lesson. Let's put it the truth, right? It's taught everyone a lesson. But, hit by hit, challenges by challenges by challenges, obstacle by obstacles, the man in that country is the only one can speak. So let's get Dr. Arvinda. Dr. Arvinda, the question is very simple, sir. People are going through tremendous stress. Vaccines are coming up. Lots of trials are going on. Some positive news are going on. I mean, it is going to be a long haul, never a short run. Trials and errors are happening. Medical science are still doing lots of research. At this point of time, we just had our PM, from Malaysia, saying that there's going to be another emergency state because of to control it. How people are taking it, and what do you foresee in the next 8 months or so?
I foresee what's going to happen in the next 2 years, because I think we have enough evidence now to say that with the first lockdown of 3 months, which we have shut our kids out from school, they are going to lose 1 year already. And with this current MCO, and if they don't get their X straight, especially for online classes, we are going to see our kids perhaps a year or two behind the other kids. I think it will not be only in Malaysia, it will be a generation gap. And you will find that when they reach our age, their experiences and all may be much less in real life. They may have advanced like mad more than us, where social media, internet, and computers, or even mobile phones are concerned. They may progress in apps, but I think where being street smart, having experiences, the human nature touch of being a human is going to regress, unfortunately. With this current pandemic, there are two situations. One situation is in exposure for children on social media or even on e-media to continue their classes. That itself may cause depression because they are not with their peers. And the other extreme of it is that these people are going to be online for too long, and even as they are online, they may be online, but they may be checking their social media as that happens. That itself is going to cause a lot of mental stress because they're going to have exams, they're going to think about a lot of it. I think the possibilities are endless. We can only assume, we can only predict what's going to happen, but I think most of us will be shocked to hear what happens, what may happen in the past. I hear a lot of kids, parents coming in these days with mental health issues because of the MCO, and I'm still dealing with it. I don't know how we're going to deal with the next one, and that's only mental health. You get parents coming in because they're arguing with their kids more often. There's only one laptop in the house. Mother needs to do the work. The child needs to attend classes. Mother goes and see. Then, of course, the mother will always say, never mind, my kids, this one is more important. They log on from their phone. They go there, they find the kid on social media, and then they get angry. That type of things. Number two, are we actually prepared for the other reasons of everybody working from home? are we going to see? We already have seen much more domestic abuse, and now we are only seeing it now after months and months away from the first MCO. God knows what we're going to see this time around. It's getting scary, because I think as we are more indulged into communication and devices, which is a good thing, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but some of the side effects that has come is I think we have lost the humanity side of things. um, Kids prefer to look at each other on um, on screen than in real life. But I remember doing this study sometime back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, where you can see that actually the communication between parents and teenagers have gone up via media devices. Think about it. Um, when was the last time when everybody was in the house, but they're in their own rooms? Mom has to send a message on WhatsApp asking everybody to come down and have dinner. Correct me if I've heard this situation. I think it may be happening. Correct, Vance? You're saying something?
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds. I mean, everybody's smiling, so
Yeah.
probably everyone probably had that kind of experience before because they have group chats. So that could be the
Correct.
reason.
And you know what? The most important thing is communicating doesn't work. Mom calls everybody to come down verbally. Nobody listens. The moment you send a WhatsApp message, everybody is down, and that goes to show. And I'm coming to a point of that I think what was brought up earlier was actually flaming meaning, you find a person, you start embarrassing them. And this doesn't only have to happen via social media where you post something. There are groups nowadays, especially you can see in WhatsApp groups or Telegram groups, where they start a group, they don't like someone, they start another group without that person inside, and then somebody will inevitably go and tell that person, hey, you know what, we got a new group, but you're not there. But and that itself creates a lot of different problems, and we see a lot of kids coming in these days with, I would say, technology related mental health issues. I can honestly tell you, Vince, today, just before I came, before you contacted me and asked me to come on the show, I had one child who came with severe headache. And immediately, I don't know why, I just kept talking to the child. And you know what? That fella spends 5 hours a day before he sleeps on his phone. That means if he sleeps at 10 o'clock, from 5 p.m., the moment his mom comes back from work, the phone is with him, and he's there. And then I told him, I said, and I'm talking based on facts and figures. You're supposed to have a screen-free time 2 hours before you sleep. All of us, you, I, everyone. I mean laptops, I mean tablets, everything. And these days I have to be very specific. I tell the child, you have to read before you sleep. But Vance, if I tell you read before you sleep, you will be like a good boy, you'll pick up a book and read. These guys, they have an app on their phone to read. It brings back to the question and the same, it's a chicken and egg story. So I keep telling them, look, you have to read, and you can't read on your device. And you can see that blurriness in their face, like, oh my God, he's asking me literally not to breathe. How do you deal with the situation? That's why I said there is a very big generation gap, even though the age gap may be very small. There are so many things we have not learned. Unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of adult-based diseases, migraines, headaches, which I never used to see in 10 and 12-year-olds. But I have to learn and relearn, because this is something which is going to hit us badly. Just to share with you guys, Benz, if you don't mind, just give me 2 minutes. I have this particular slide. I think Benz has seen this before, on the usage of internet in Southeast Asia, and you can see that Malaysia and Singapore are 75 and 83% in 2018, and I'm sure it is much more. And you can see that social media actually hits most of the communication and multimedia internet surveys in Malaysia. You can see here. Now, cyberbullying, of course, you get a negative trait. A lot of them see anger, hostility, arrogance, ignorance, bad judgment, hatred, vanity. But 47% received nasty profile comments, and 62 were sent nasty private messages via smartphone app. And most of the parents believe that they were vulnerable and disbelief, and they knocked their self-esteem out. I won't go into much, but I just wanted to show, I think this is a very important slide about cyberbullying and even whatever we are seeing online. Social exclusion, like what I was speaking about. We have a group you exclude one person. Cyber stalking, that could even be part of trickery where they have a fake account and they follow someone, claiming, just constantly giving bad news and fake news about a person, impersonation and harassment. So I think these few bits of it is quite severe. And as you can see, Malaysia is here. I don't think Singapore is in that list, but this was part of 2018 and 2020, where you actually find that the number of cyberbullying cases is actually quite high. All right, and it has come to a point where we actually have to start thinking about um, like exactly what Nisha said, and what I think I'm very sure Devon would have mentioned is we have to be vigilant in looking at our kids. There will be something wrong. The fella suddenly remains very quiet for dinner. Don't get me wrong. Some people are very quiet. They start talking because they never get an opportunity to talk online or say something online. They want to express it. So I think the very important thing is change. A sudden change in behavior may not be for the worst thing, but for the good. I will share with you a personal experience. I think about 6 years ago, I took a very bold step in going off Facebook. I just deactivated my account. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of friends, a lot of memories with pictures of with people, which I deactivated the account, and I have not been active since. A lot of people call me, Arvinda, are you okay? I said no. There's just too many negative things online. It was not negative comments towards me. There were negative comments against people, and it actually affects. Like for example, um, Nisha keeps posting something about Devon, and Devon is my very close friend. At the end of the day, I may get upset. I know Nisha, you won't do that, but I just example.
And then doctor, what will happen is Vance is now laughing at the boat, and then
Exactly.
gossip is the gossip.
And Vance go and post it on a different social media and screenshot. The screenshot thing is a real disease by itself. So at the end of it all, are we harping on the right thing? So I think at the end of the day, it it is such a vast thing. I think the more important thing is for parents to teach their children to be internet savvy and social media responsible. You have to tell your kid when your kid is doing something. I know a lot of parents who follow their kids, and we keep telling them, please observe your kids what they're doing online. If they're doing something wrong, not only for their safety, but if they are being the perpetrators, always reprimand them and tell them, because it's easier to correct them at this age than later ages. That's my honest take about it.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for participating with Kopi with events at a very short notice of time, because I know that it will be very valuable for Nisha and Devan as well, because they are from the counseling and youth works they are doing. So I just want to to share your expertise in this. Thank you so much.
Most
From the
welcome.
country, wishing our neighbor country all the best, and hopefully
Thank
we
you.
can come out of this quickly. We will stay
Thank you.
connected. Doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say that I think Devon and Nisha, people in your job fields actually make our lives much more easier, because we can actually diagnose and treat. But I tell you, a lot of the treatment comes from people like Devon and Nisha, who I think spend much more time sitting, talking, divulging, and they give us the best information of where we're going to go. Honestly, when I've done any of my research on mental health, I connect a lot with these clinical psychologists, people who deal with psychology. These are the people, these are the core people, and I salute you guys. You guys really are doing a fantastic job. Salute.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. So we will stay connected, and I will get you back as soon as possible. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye. So now back to Devan and Nisha. All right. So we talked about introduction. We talk about the topic. We talk about the problems, the challenges, the obstacles. Now let's come to the solution. All right. And probably the last part there we can have some Q&A, and few of the viewers has actually posted a few of the questions to us, so that we can actually ask them. So we will first take it on to the youth worker first, all right, David? So we know cyberbullying is happening. We know pressure is there. Vanan is posting and he get 100 likes. Devan is posting, he only get 2 likes. So Devan is going under pressure. What is the solution? I mean, of course, there's no one size fits all, but what are the possible solutions one can come out from cyberbullying and stay away from this competitiveness in social media?
Okay, I'll look at it in two parts. The first part is cyberbullying, because cyberbullying is it's actually a crime, all right? And if you are actually extorting or bullying someone online, you can actually be charged under the Singapore law. A lot of people do not know we do have laws in place to actually get this person the punishment needed. Why I'm saying this, especially online here right now, is because many youth suffer silently. I've had cases where the youth have gone through this kind of thing from the start of Sec 1 all the way to Sec 3. And then in Sec 3, right, okay, after, going through so much and going through mental health, distress and all that stuff, finally decide to open up. And then we found out that, hey, this has been going on for some time. So remember one thing, guys, if you are going through cyberbullying, take screenshots. Screenshots can be beneficial to you as well. Take screenshots, all right? Take note of when and how these conversations happen, and definitely go and talk to an official, all right? Officials can be number one in your school, all right? Teachers. Teachers are trained, in identifying and also to support youth who are going through all of this kind of stuff. That's one. All right. If you feel that your teachers are not not seeing it, especially if the perpetrator is in class and you're very worried about it, all right. Next thing you can do is go to another adult that you feel comfortable with. It can be your parents, and this is where then I need to bring the topic to parents. Parents, when your kid comes to you and says that, hey, I'm going through this, do not ridicule them. I've had parents who actually said, you know what? Hey, you are a boy. You're the boy. Man up. You should go through all of this, and don't worry, it's all online. Or the classic Indian parent one. Yeah, lah, use phone some more. Use phone some more. Then what do you expect? All of this won't come to you, man. But the thing is, the child actually trusted you to come and talk to you, to tell you all of this, no. And mind you, the child's identity is at stake right now. It's being damaged, tarnished to the extent the child doesn't have an identity on social media anymore. All right, and it's coming to you to actually share. Receive it with open arms. Receive the person, irregardless of gender, with an open mindset. Be empathetic to them and don't give them solutions. All right, allow them to talk. Talking is a cathartic relief. At the same time, the more they talk, the more information you can get. And that information is important because as the appropriate adult in their life, you will need to actually support them, and especially if they need to find any kind of legal assistance towards them. Right? So this is where parents come in. And if you don't feel comfortable telling your parents, because what I just shared, a parent keeps saying, keep using phone and this is what you get, then talk to a mental health professional. All of our social service agencies in Singapore, all right, we do know the legal systems that are necessary to actually get help for you in the fastest way and the best way. To the extent, right, for severe cases, right, we will even accompany you to the court to actually get a personal protection order against the person. All right, because extortion, even online, all right, is considered, an act against your own personal protection. All right, so you can even get that. So then we look at the next part, social media. All right, when you're being bullied online, or when you see there's so much of competitiveness happening, in the online sphere, all right, always remember where your identity sits. Okay, it's very easy for us to get caught up with all of these social media issues, or these trends and stuff. It's very important for us to always be mindful just how much are we getting affected. For instance, with everybody posting, hey, hashtag COVID-19, it's a year of transformation, we need to exercise and stuff and do this, do that. I'm reading 100 books per day. How many books are you reading? You should be reading books. It's very easy for us to get involved in it. All right, some of the ways to actually get uninvolved is, all right, giving appropriate breaks for yourself, and even to the extent, muting those people that cause you anxiety when you see all their posts that makes you feel that you need to compete with them. There's no shame in moving away from all of this. People think that, the moment I move away, right, people think that I'm a loser. I cannot do anything about it. I'm a weakling, so I must participate in the competition. Let me tell you, the more you participate in it, the more you will feel that your mental health is being drained. it's literally exhaustive to go against that current of competitiveness. Talk to someone, all right? Be comfortable in actually allocating times to actually use the social media, and even going on a detox by actually unfriending or muting those people that cause you the anxiety. How do you know that it causes you anxiety? When you are on your social media, son, you go onto your apps, and then you realize that just by scrolling your heart rate starts going up, or you feel very frantic, the way that you scroll is frantic. These are signs and symptoms that you are getting anxious about what you're seeing. And after you have seen those images, all right, you start to actually think about them even though you have switched off the app. That's when they are starting to affect your mental health, especially when thoughts like negative thoughts coming, like hey, this friend has gone to do this, or they have started exercising. What am I doing with my life? Why is my life like that? These kind of negative thoughts, when they start coming in, be mindful enough to actually remember these thoughts. One thing that helps a lot of youth is journaling. Write down those thoughts, write down those emotions, write down how you feel about those social media posts, and then look at it across a 1 week or 2 weeks spectrum. If we realize that, hey, these thoughts have been coming more often than not, especially when with regards to this person's profile, or this particular social trend and that kind of competitiveness, then I think it's time for you to go and talk to a mental professional with the journal entries that you have made. Because with those journal entries and with yourself, it's easier for the mental health professional to assess what kind of help you need and what kind of support that you can get. All right. So these are some of the tips to actually go through this competitiveness and also this cyberbullying as well. All right. In general, like when you feel that you're being stuck in this, all right, always tell yourself, there is support available. I'm not alone. All right. As much as you feel very alone, there are people around. In fact, like organizations like, Touch Cyber Wellness. There are organizations in Singapore that looks into cyberbullying and cyber wellness. They do provide workshops and stuff that actually helps you to actually cope with this better. All right. So these are some avenues, Vance.
Thank you so much, Devin, for the solution part. I mean, possible solutions. But of course, sometimes truth can be a little bit hurt. So for parents who are hearing this, I mean, it's definitely it's up to you how you want to. I mean, how you want to bring your kids. But I think the point of what we are sharing is some may agree, some may disagree. But again, it's all on your hands. It's your child. But of course, possibility of solutions are there, and how your kids can actually overcome it. So parents' role is very, very important. So now we come back to Nisha. So Nisha, we talked about all these issues that earlier on we talked about, the sign and symptoms that one may possibility, thinking of ending their journey, which is of course their life. But that can be a very extreme cases, and because of the world that we live in, it's very, very stressful, right? People have deadlines, targets, sales targets, issues, financial. So many stress are going on. So in the past, we tend to say physical strength is very much more important than the mental strength. But right now, physical strength is not even the main source at all. Mental strength is the most important thing. So, Nisha, what are the things that if our viewers are hearing that, how one should be very focused, or to be stronger, and not look at negative sides of life? What are the things that your golden words will be?
I think mental resilience and strength is something that we are all born with, but the challenge comes when we are faced with obstacles along our way, right? And I will not look down or judge or even label, or try to understand people who have come to that point of their life where they think ending their life is the only solution they have, because to each their own, right? And I always tell this to anyone and everyone who kind of look down on people who decide to take their life. The truth is that that was definitely not their first choice, right? They would have definitely thought through a million things, tried a million things, tried to talk to people, give hints, give signs, And before it comes to a point, I very unfortunately, a couple of years back, I attended this lecture where a professor said that people who commit suicide are very coward people, very insensitive people, and people who don't care about their family and friends. I was very
Without doubt.
affected by that comment. Very selfish people is something that he said. So I was very affected by that comment, and I stood up and said, honestly, people who decide to take their lives are people who have thought about everyone and everything around them before they realize that, or before they feel that my life is not worth living. So it is very difficult. And if you ever realize or ever feel like you are coming to that point in your life where you're even contemplating, or you start feeling even the smallest of thoughts that maybe the world would be a better place without me, or my misery will end if I end my life, that is your biggest indicator that something is very wrong. And before you manifest on that thought, and before you start exploring or dwelling into that thought, talk to someone, anyone. Right? If you have that in your head for more than 2 minutes, you should find somebody to talk to. you know um there are so many hotlines, SOS, mental X hotline, so many call a friends that you have, befriender hotlines that is out there. You can even call the police, or you can call 995 if you feel that I have really nobody to talk to, and you just have to tell them that this is going on in my head and I'm scared and I don't know what I'm going to do. There is help. Our first step is to identify and know that, no, I am not being myself. This is not me. This is not right for me, and I want help. Right? And no one is perfect. No one is special. No one has it all together. Everyone at some point in our life has gone through disaster. Right? No matter whether you are the richest billionaire in the world or the most poor person on earth, we all go through difficulty. It is really how we want to deal with it. And if we do want to deal with it, help is always there. Right? I know there's stigma towards so much in our mental health institutions and things like that. It's okay. Okay, if you feel overwhelmed, feel very intimidated to go up to IMH and get an appointment to see someone, go to your nearest polyclinic. Make an appointment, go and see a GP, a polyclinic, your family doctor, and tell them that I've been very stressed, or I've been feeling very overwhelmed, or I keep crying all the time, or I have these thoughts about ending my life. What can I do? They will give you the referral that you need. You don't even have to explain very far off. If you feel like you don't want to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, it's too much for you, you can go to your nearest family service center. Every constituency has a family service center, and every family service center will have a counselor, will have a youth worker, will have a social worker, a befriender who can talk to you. You don't need to have your problems sought out to seek help. You just need to acknowledge that I have a problem and I want help. The rest, there's always support that will help you. I have so many clients who I've sat in for like 5, 6, even 10 sessions with them, not knowing what their problem is. But they keep coming back because I'm willing to sit with them until we both can figure out what the problem is. And then after that, we realize, okay, after that, we decide, okay, what do we want to do about it? What can we do together about it? Right? So no one is alone unless we decide that we are alone in this. And so we can always come back up. It's never too late unless we decide it's late. Right? We can always come back up. We can always, bounce back up. Right? And if you don't feel like today is your day to bounce back up, that is also completely fine. No pressure. Right? You do you at your own pace. Don't let anybody get to you. I know, we see a lot of quotes out there. Even all three of us, we are talking about mental health, and we're seeing about how we want to come out of that rut. But if you're watching this and you feel like, I really don't feel like I can do it right now, it's okay. Take your time, take your space, but every day just hold on to something. and look forward to the next day. And the next day will become 1 week, will become 1 month, and become 1 year. It's just that resilience. That is what resilience is about anyways. It's not like, having so much of strength and physical, energy and all of that. No, it's really about taking it one step at a time and putting our mind to just surviving. That's all we are doing now, right? And the topic that we're talking about, surviving and thriving, right? To get to thriving, we have to survive first. And that's all we do.
Very well said, Nisha and Devan. I mean, it was a very fruitful session. But of course, touching on your point, Nisha, I think you made it very well said, even in your lecture, even though the lecturer has said that you stood up. So I think we have to give you for your bravery. But I mean, to be talk on the emotional side, it can be very sad because that particular person, whoever it is, we can't imagine, right? Let's put it so, can't imagine what they have went through. All right. So I think your outline is here, and we are talking about cyberbullying. We talk about youth going under stress, possible ways of sign and symptoms of depression and anxiety. We have the outline here for viewers who are watching that. They are from the ACT, Mental ACT, Advocacy, Care and Train. There's Devan and Nisha here. Devan and Nisha are volunteers who are doing this for the past 3 years. And their outline is 24/7. And it's a crisis helpline. This is 96193531. Another one is 97769067. I know it's a non-profit organization, and they're just doing it out of a pure passion in reaching out. Sometimes it's just that the popularity, right? It's not about just about who they are, but it's about their work. I think that we need to give it to them, because it is very important at this point of time in our life, especially with the COVID, our non-best friend, always trying to be our best friend at this point of time. A lot of issues, and also bothering a lot of them to our neighboring countries. I think it's a bit sad if you're talking about the emotional side. But talking back on the mental side, which is coming from the fitness aspect and health aspect, we are humans with lots of chemicals in our brain, a lot of hormones in our body, right? Example, like a chocolate, you're having a great comfort food, or going for massage, or you tell your spouse, I love you, or you're going out with your friends as social bonding. There are some hormones, there are tons of hormones: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. When you exercise, you release, you feel happy, you feel energetic, sometimes you feel tired. We are all hormones. It's okay, perfectly fine to be unbalanced. Sometimes everyone have went through. It's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh. But I think what we need to do right now is, if we are facing any situation, all right, let's put the ego aside. Let's put the weaknesses aside. There's outlines. These guys are here. And there's so many tons of help in Singapore, especially, which Nisha just talked about. Befrienders, they got the community hotlines as well. We have all this information. Probably we will put it in our post. I know this topic is a little sensitive, so that's why people are not commenting. That's perfectly fine. But if you do have any questions, or if you have any situations, all right, it's not a challenges, it's not about obstacles. If you have any situation, these are the outlines to call. These guys will be there to take the call and understand and have a chat. And you can also contact Kopi with Vans at any point of time, because what we do is we work with a very pool of people, and we know who what kind of help that's needed to be in, and kind of stuff. So coming back to the because since we don't have any Q&A, so we have about just 2-3 minutes. So we start with Devan, right? So your timer is going to start. So I'm going to put the timer here, right? It's exactly 2 minutes. Any one more minute, I will charge you $100 per 1 minute.
Yeah.
Well, no, right? In your nutshell, right, for youth, what is your experiences, or what is your what you went through, or what you have lived through, and what are you going to put in the 2 minutes? If a youth is watching it, he must get inspired. What is your golden words?
I think as a youth, right? So in just two minutes, right? To all the youth that you're not alone, all right? Because a lot of us feel that in our most trying times, in the darkness of our rooms, under the blanket, we are all alone. We might have thousands of friends on Instagram, on Facebook, and everything, but we feel alone. We might have family members laughing beside us, having a time of their life, even celebrating our birthdays, but we feel alone. That loneliness is a scary place. I've been there. I've seen friends who have gone through that. I've helped people who have gone through that. And I'm telling you this, the loneliness is not permanent. All right. It's not permanent, and suicide is not the solution. All right. Before you go to that extent, try one last thing. All right. Just try one last thing. Try talking to someone. All right. Just by calling us, or calling any of the organizations, we are there. The sole reason for us to be there is to hear you out, to provide you with the resources. And it's always, especially as a guy, okay, guy to guy, right? Okay, people tell us to be macho, people tell us to be, strong, hey, you're man, be a man, man up. Okay, don't cry. You're the eldest son in the family. You're the sole breadwinner. You cannot cry and stuff. Utter bullshit. Okay, we have tears, we have emotions, we have stress. Everything is there. We are human. Okay, and I think as men, we have to start talking about it so that we can save more men from going through abuse of alcohol or even drugs, depression and stuff, because all of this begins with the fact that we are not talking about our mental health. We are not, we don't hesitate to talk about, who's the hottest woman, or who is the, the most prettiest girl and all that kind of stuff, all our guy talk. But when someone opens their mouth and say, hey, I'm going through something, immediately we shut that person down. It's like, they don't talk about it. I'm like, when the time comes when the person no longer exists because we fail to allow that person to talk to us, that's when we all realize that, hey, he actually showed us all the warning signs. He talked, he tried to talk. We were the ones who shut him off. And by then we always say, if only we knew, right? Actually, people, we all knew, the signs were there. It's just that whether we picked it up and whether we are brave enough to talk about it. Moment we talk about it, think about the number of lives we can save, and think about the number of people who feel alone that might actually see that light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. So that's my 2 minutes.
Go on, really, bro. It's more than 3 minutes. Thank you so much for that. So, Nisha, of course, David has covered the, that part. So probably you want to cover on the cyberbullying, or in a nutshell, if someone is going through it, and what is the immediate solution? Going to the teachers, going to the parents, or talking to a friend, or what is your golden words to a youth or adult? Even adult also can go through a cyberbullying, right? In terms of, he got 20 likes, I need to get 100 likes. It's likes versus likes, and that constantly put under person under anxiety. In fact, without knowing them, they go through a humongous unbalance of hormones within them, and then that actually affects their mental, physical, anxiety, sweaty palms. So many signs and symptoms are coming along. So what is your nutshell of advice, golden advice in this segment?
I think the only thing I have to say is don't keep quiet. Talk about it, and similar to what Devan said, but don't keep quiet about something. If something is wrong, someone is, being unfair to you, and someone is hurting you, talk about it. Tell someone, report it. Don't keep it to yourself. You deserve justice, and it's not fair that you are being hurt, you are being, affected, and you have to go to bed feeling lousy every night, not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, while these people are having a laugh behind your back, circulating things about you, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or fake, right? It is your personal space, it is your privacy, and no one on this planet has the right to shame you or defame you like that. So, no matter whether you're a student, you're a parent, you're an adult, you're a boss or colleague or employee, whatever you are, right? If someone is bullying you, hurting you, or causing you this unnecessary distress that you don't deserve, which none of us do, voice it out, right? Keeping quiet is not going to take us anywhere. Holding on to it and suppressing it is not going to take us anywhere, right? There will be help. Like I always said, even like I said just now, there is help out there waiting for us. We need to go out there and open up and talk about it. I know it's not easy. And coming back to the first thing, confidentiality. If you're talking to a trusted professional, definitely what you share will be confidential. And if you are not sure, right, always start with asking. Ask them, if this is very sensitive to me, this is very personal to me, is what I'm going to share confidential, right? And when you hear a yes, that is, your space to talk about it, right? Definitely, there are people, and like what David said, cyberbullying is a crime, but we can never, like, we can't point it out, or we can't uh, work on it, and we cannot address it if it's not being reported, right? Just like how we ask people to report robbery, theft, rape, kidnapping. Cyberbullying is also a crime, and it can only be addressed if it is reported. So it's not your fault. Don't take blame for something that is not your responsibility, not your fault. Don't allow people to blame you for something that's not your fault, right? Whatever it is, if it's your mistake, it's yours. If it's your personal story, it's yours. It's for you to deal with. No one has the right to shine light on it and disgrace you for it or embarrass you for it, right? So don't let them do things to that. Take ownership, take control of the situation, and report it, right? And the rest will be dealt with accordingly.
Thank you so much, Nisha and Devan, for sharing almost 1 hour and 26 minutes. And I know there's quite a number of viewers who are constantly watching us. Thank you so much. I'm sure you have shared the video, because we can see from the stats that this video has been shared. I mean, at the end of the day, we want this piece of information to go out at your hotlines. And we talked about youth, we talked about cyberbullying, we talk about even adults going under depression and anxiety. And I think what the world needs at this point of time, with, of course, our not the best friend COVID with us, giving some additional challenges and problems at more time. He wants to be our best friend. I think we need more love. We need caring. If one other people have to pull each other, not step on each other. I think that is very important. And if help is needed, I think it's very crucial to go and look for the help. And also, like, sign and symptoms is very important. And a person is stressed, high backs, not having sleep, wearing dull colors, and putting on weight or losing weight. It's all signs and symptoms, because even in the fitness aspect or even the health aspect, if one is not exercising, sometimes you're always outward, right? We're always looking outwards. We're not always looking inwards. We never take care of ourselves. We are always rushing for time, deadlines, work, come back, sleep, deadline, work, come back, sleep. So it's the body will go through under tremendous stress, especially when someone goes into a depression or anxiety. There's no clue, there's no timeline. But as more workload and more issues that keep on coming to your bucket, eventually the bucket will fill up, and then that's where overflow of things will comes in, and by then you will have a lot of tremendous situation that might come in. You will feel very, you can even go to drugs, you can even go to alcohol and that kind of stuff. So we are trying to see what is the best solution, but of course one size doesn't fit everything. Some might agree, some might not disagree, but at the end of the day, Kopi with Vance and with our speakers today, with Devan and Nisha, we want to see how we can impact the youth and also people who are watching this. In order to make this impact, you got to share the video so that it can reach out to more people. And if someone is going through a tremendous stress period, even if you need to talk to someone, right, don't just call them and say, hi, how are you? It's an hotline where, if someone is really going through a tremendous situation, even if you have a doubt, no issues at all, please call them and they will be guiding and see what's the best solution for that. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and it's been a fabulous time that we had a great chat with the both of you all, as well as Doctor, who came in and share your wisdom, your experiences, and the fabulous work that you both are doing. We have to say it's a very a gratitude in terms of to the humankind at this point of time, helping, look out for each other, right? I think that's very important, and see what are the possible ways of uplifting humans. Do you all agree with me there?
Definitely.
Yes.
I think, yeah, definitely.
it's important to be kind to one another.
That's what our world is like.
I know, man.
Okay, that's what our world is like. But again, every person, makes a different attitude and characters in this world. So we try to live as much as possible. We can't. We just have to move ahead, all right? But those who need help, there is help. Thank you, guys. So we have come to the end of the session. So David and
Thank
Isha,
you.
thank you so much. We will
Thank
definitely catch up for coffee one of these days.
Yes.
For sure.
Coffee, yeah. Okay, David, thank you so much, and I will.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, Nisha, thank you so much.
Thank you, Vance. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you so much again for joining me in Kopi with Vance. I got to say that I enjoyed this journey for almost a year. Having Kopi with Vance, got a great chance of speaking to different speakers. Even I'm learning as I go through this, even though I'm coming from the fitness industry. But I think it's very important that one should be turning inwards. Like what Dr. Arinda has said, there's a lot of possibilities, situations. If you have seen my previous videos on the there are a couple of doctors we talk about psychiatry, the mind, neurologists, what happens to the mind and physical, and so forth. There are many videos, so please do watch it. I mean, I hope this has shown some light in the path of ours, even though sometimes it can be darkness. Sometimes it's also important to get it to remind that we are living a very blissful life, and how we can actually looking at different situations and going through. I got to say thanks to our last viewer, who's Clark Susan. It's a pleasure for me to write this testimonial. How I got my cured a month ago. Reading so many comments of some people cured. Thank you, Clark Susan. I think you have also stated, and there's a lot of other comments that came in. Thank you so much for every and each one of you all who took time to writing. There are some sensitive comments which I've actually erased it off, which is of course pertaining to help, which they have asked for. So I think that one I will pass it to the counselors and the youth workers. So stay tuned for next upcoming exciting topic, which it is in the pipeline, which I'm working on, which is, let's make it a suspense, right? I will usually will post 1 week before the actual talk happens, so that our viewers have more time to get themselves prepared. Okay, so that's all from me today. I hope everyone has enjoyed the session, and if you think it has makes sense to you, if you think that it has given you some light, so please do share. And these are the outlines. If anybody needs some help, please call them, and help is there. And thank you so much. I'll catch you all again very soon. From now, Kopi with Vance. Ciao.